Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Authentic Faith Podcast. What up? What up? What up? Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Do you have something?
We need a song.
I know. Okay.
We need a song.
We're back.
I just need the
We
vibes.
back.
Here, I'm going to play this worship song. We just need a vibe.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's go. We need intro music. You know, this was one of my favorite worship albums that ever came out.
What is it?
Jonathan and Melissa Hilzer, The Land I'm Living In. I just thought start to finish, it was like one of the best albums ever.
Is that the one with the is that the one with the Explode My Soul in it? What can I see what it looks like?
Explode My Soul. I've never heard those lyrics in my life. Explode My Soul. That's like, bless the Lord, all my soul. Mariah's version is Explode My Soul.
It is the best song ever.
Doesn't this set the vibe?
Okay, this is their 2022 or 20. This is their more recent album. When they were the OGs back in the day, they had in 2014 Explode My Soul on the Shores album.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good. Everything changes. This is a good one.
That
should put that on
album,
in a
start to finish, was so good.
Yeah. Do you want to hear it really quick?
Good morning, everybody. Just have to say hi to everybody out there since we're live.
This is Explode My Soul. It's nice. It's not an explosion. Feels like wind, though. Do you ever imagine? Okay. Explode with praise. Explode my soul. Explode with praise. That's my vibe.
Explode.
Okay.
Hey, I didn't get enough of it to get an accurate feel for what it is, but yeah.
If you
I'll
ever
trust you.
in worship, sometimes I feel like I could just explode. Do you ever feel that?
Mm-mm.
Like, I think maybe at the worship night, I was like, the other Friday, we talked about it last week. But that I think I could have exploded.
For me, you know what happens is I feel like I could just melt into a couch.
Yeah.
Like I could just.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm just.
Which is like who you need to be, like the opposite of what. Yeah, like.
Yeah, I just like melt away.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What do you have there?
So I'm passing across the table something that's called a muncher. If you know, you know.
What's a muncher?
A muncher? Matt needs a muncher.
Matt, jump in front of the camera right now. Grab a muncher.
Do you want two munchers? The only rule is don't chomp it in front of your microphone. So what's a
muncher? Explain what it is.
So a muncher.
Where's it from?
A muncher is basically a hash brown circle, but it has, I think there's cheese. There's for sure jalapeno. And it's from Corrales.
That's what I was going to say. Local favorite. That's my favorite. One of my favorite burrito places.
I hope they're not watching because I have to tell you the truth. I only like them for their munchers.
Hey. No. So listen, their chili relleno burrito is so fire.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got a burrito there this
morning.
morning.
I'll go to Corrales just to get the hot sauce.
Oh.
I will get a 24-ounce hot sauce.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, so we ready
to
eat this?
Okay,
Are you not going to take a bite with me?
No, I already ate. I ate like 3. Did you? What did you think? What did it taste like?
Like a jalapeno pop.
Okay, yeah. It's pretty good. Imagine it was your first time. Whoa.
That is so good. What is that again?
It's a muncher, babe.
Thank you for feeding us on air. You found an excuse to feed us.
I have a little pile of drinks over, so don't mind me.
And now I'm going to carb crash. I told Mariah, I said, I don't eat until like 1 o'clock on Tuesdays because it's a busy day.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You were fed. So there's more where that came from. Amen.
We'll throw it in the microwave after the episode.
So, yay, Pastor Brad is back. Let's go.
It's been a while.
He gave his seat up so we could have some different talks.
Mariah, I think, after too many episodes directly with me, she starts to get itchy. She's like, I gotta have some other people to talk to. Like, I feel like you're like slightly oppressed when I'm in the room. Like you're like, Brad around, I just can't fully function as myself, and so she kicks me out.
That's half of that. I kicked you out, but no, we had a youth pastor come. It was perfect timing for that podcast. That was good.
And before that,
you had that idea.
I did have that idea. Who was on before that? I haven't been on for like 3 weeks.
John. Dating? We talk about dating?
Yeah.
Maybe. That was important. We got a lot of likes.
Yeah, for sure. We probably need to get some people who have actually had some victory in that area.
You gotta have there's the thrill of victory and there's the agony of defeat. We gotta have both.
So that's so funny because we need a dating episode that's the agony of defeat, and then we need the
thrill of victory.
The thrill of victory.
That's horrible. That's from Randy Clark's healing teaching. He talks about that, but it's funny in this case. I would love to have on a few couples that are not extremely far into like boomer land. Is it boomer land? Is it called boom?
Hey.
No, sorry.
What are you doing right now? Boomer land? That was the most offensive thing I think you've ever said on this podcast.
That's what they're called, right? Like.
Yeah, but why would you put them in a land and segregate them?
The label does it already.
That was so offensive to so many people.
No offense. I think we need, here's the thing. Okay, let me just clarify. So, excuse me. I want to see couples from Boomerland and Gen Z and, well, not Gen Z, they're still younger, but maybe millennials and then Gen X. But I feel like the closer to the people who are single, the better. So if you just got married and you're a millennial still, I feel like we like to hear from you. Like, how did you make it out of the desert?
The problem is with some of them, they're still there's like a divorce rate that skyrockets after 7 years or before 7 years, and so like you need the ones that have been married 10 years.
Okay, where
they've been married long enough to get through the difficulty, but they're still fresh enough that they can speak into your life.
Yeah.
You know, I think
11 years.
I'm reaching the place in my life. I didn't know I'd get here so quickly, but I'm reaching the place in my life where now like the younger generation is pushing me out, and it feels weird. I'm going to be honest with you.
You're getting old?
Yeah, but and I think I pushed back on that because I don't know. Like
you said that like 2 Sundays ago or a few Sundays ago about being old, and like I think you offended some people because you're very young still.
Me?
Yeah.
How did I offend people?
Well, you were like, I'm too old to be in the youth group or something. And I was like, no, you didn't. I don't know if you really offended anyone. Youth pastor.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's like, first just your comment about being old. I was like, there's so many people that are older that are like, this young kid, this young person is saying.
Too old for that position.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that position.
I don't know. Anyway,
this is a controversial take maybe for other churches, but older youth pastors, like if you're in your 40s and you're still a youth pastor, it can sometimes borderline creepy.
But why is it that, like, what are they supposed to do? Like, what if they're called to do that?
Raise up a team under you and work with the leaders more. Like I probably wouldn't send my daughter hanging out with 40-year-old men.
Oh, I see.
You know, like,
I see.
But also I wouldn't send my daughter with 20-year-old men. That's just as dangerous. You know, so like.
So no men.
Yeah, you send her with the right men. Mm-hmm. I trust Hollis with John, our youth pastor before. I trust Parker, who was on last week, fully. I mean, last night he walks her to my car, and you know, when I picked her up from youth, it's just the right men.
All right. There's a lot of women, so raise up some more. Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, the women, of course. Yeah. Like our women, like I would definitely. I mean. Any of our girls, I send our girls with the girls all the time. You asked specifically.
Right. I'm just saying, there's a lot of people that are older than 40, and not. Yeah, that's funny. That 40 is like the new 20.
You're pushing me out.
No. I love what we do here. This is great.
And I like poking her a little bit. It's fun.
Well, speaking of poking, I guess it's kind of related. We'll talk about
speaking of poke.
Yeah. Poking. Well,
okay.
He's hungry.
Yeah, I am.
We're going to talk about risk taking today, but not just taking risks to take risks. Like, there's something behind risks for you. There's this power. There's a presence behind risk taking in the kingdom. It's not just to be impulsive. We're going to go through it, but I just want to start off with a flashback for you, because here, I'll just say, I believe, I said this before we started, that what you sow, you reap. It says that in the Bible. But what you sow before you know the Lord, you also reap later. And I feel like many people think that because when you become a Christian, it's all sunshine and butterflies and cotton candy. And what they did in their previous life, yes, it's gone. It's been paid for. And what you do every single day and you will do is also covered. But what you sow, even before God, I believe there's things that you reap. And you're like, where is this coming from? Well, how did you spend your life, your previous years? And for better or worse. But I want to know, before knowing God, what were some risks that you took that you didn't even know, like you didn't even care about God. We've heard some of your story. It's recorded. We have like here on the podcast episodes, but you can share anything from that life. Like, is there anything that you were like, this risk that you now look back and you're like, whoa, that sewed into this now? Or didn't connect, but you still are like, looking back, that was a risk that I feel like, like that was something that maybe was God pushing me to do that? Or
yeah, it's wild. Maybe I'll just enter into that discussion and see where it goes. But
yeah.
I don't take risks for the sake of taking risks anymore. I mean, like, number one, like, there was a time in my life where I definitely I made stupid decisions. Mm-hmm. And so you could probably say those were risky decisions, but now, like at 41, I'd say those were dumb decisions.
Okay.
That somehow worked out okay, and I survived. Mm-hmm. There is a huge difference. I mean, what do you think the difference is between being impulsive, highly impulsive, mm-hmm. or someone who's seeking thrills, mm-hmm. and someone who's taking real defined risk and focused risk? Like, what's the difference?
The peace behind, like, not peace, just like, oh, I feel good about this, I'm solid. Like, do
you see people go out and surf the 20-foot waves that are about to kill them?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
I have a friend who is a big wave athlete, or was a pro big wave athlete, and now is like one of the he works for this massive company and oversees like Olympic level surf athletes. And the other day we had this big wave thing. And he told me, he said that he got carried out so far that they had to have a helicopter hover over him as he was coming in. And I go, are we done with this yet? Are we at a place in our life where we're done? He's like, yeah, man, I think I'm done.
Dang. So there's that. There's like crazy risk adventure thrill. Then there's like impulsive decision making.
Have you seen, just one more, have you seen the people that climb the structures with no harness?
Yeah.
Matt, have you seen those? The people that climb, it trips me out, scares me to death. I can't watch the videos. My heart's about to stop.
Have you seen is it in Utah where they swing? They're totally harnessed, but they're swinging from that arch. I think it's an arch like this, and they're swinging literally over everything.
I don't do that. Like so
I would do that one.
Before we get into the impulsive side, like, I would say there was a time in my life where I definitely didn't fear death.
Right.
The way, and I don't fear death now, except for, what I'm leaving behind, but there was a time in my life where I didn't actually care.
Was that before you knew God?
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I didn't care less when I knew God. When I first met him at 17, 18, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not afraid of dying. And that's when I got wild.
I became almost, I think it was a lot, if I'm going to be honest, before Christ, the antics of my life, like as an adolescent, and, when you're doing stupid things that could kill you. Like there's times like in our band, I played music. I was in the hardcore scene, like where I'm swinging on the rafters and doing crazy things. And I think back to a time I was in Florida at 18, and we were in our senior trip. I didn't graduate high school on time. And so our senior
You're
trip,
swinging from the rafters.
we decided to, I graduated late. I went to college after, but I did not graduate on time. My parents had went to jail my senior year of high school, and I went to, or no, just at the end of my junior year, both parents had went to jail. My dad to prison, my mom to jail. And so I had to go live with family. My life was chaotic. And I had this whole, like, my senior year was not like a normal senior year. I started to, just a lot of stuff came to the surface.
Yeah.
And so I was getting high a lot, and I was drinking a lot, and I was taking sleeping medication. I got really bad,
Trying
but
to cope.
my senior trip, we just took off. We took a Greyhound bus to Florida. And so from California to Florida,
Your whole class, or just you and a bunch of
me
buddies?
and two friends.
Oh my gosh.
So instead of going on the class senior trip, we took a Greyhound bus to Florida. This was dangerous.
That it? Yeah.
We had a backpack that was literally it, and just took off to Florida to go buy a car from my friend's grandma who lived in Florida.
Wow.
And then we're going to drive that car back. And the car broke down in Texas
Of course.
in this little tiny town that could have been in a movie like Kill Bill or something.
Wow.
But anyways, this car, I remember the back roads of Florida. We were taking turns riding on the top of it as we were like flying 80 miles an hour. And we were like, the goal was to not get thrown off, obviously, because
What
you
years
die.
were these?
I was 18.
No, what year? Like in the 80s, 90s?
1999.
Man, you could get away with so much more.
No, it'd have been 2000 because it was the year I graduated. So 2000, I graduated in 2000.
Those were the good years.
So like I was flying on this car, and it's like almost falling off, but I was on the roof of the car, probably drunk, or high, or both, or whatever, but doing things I should have died of, you know.
You were the original jackass.
Yeah, we were in that
If you
generation.
know what
We
I'm
were
talking
in
about.
that generation. We were watching so we were doing stupid things.
Yeah.
That to me isn't risk. That's stupidity.
Yeah.
That's stupidity.
Why can't those people now, those people like Johnny Knoxville and Bam and like all of those guys talk about like what they were thinking in that time and how hurt they were. They talk about it now. They're all sober.
Yeah, and they talk
A
about
bunch of them are sober.
when it's
Anyway, yeah.
yeah.
Stupidity.
So like in that,
Yeah.
there was a lot of stupidity.
Yeah.
And I would calculate that as, or some today would say, like some younger people today would say, oh, that's risk. That's not risk.
Yeah.
Like it is risky for sure. But when we're talking like biblical
Risk now for you is like
yeah,
decision making.
Yeah, decision making now. But like I am a highly impulsive person by nature.
Okay. Yeah. What is that?
I've always been. So like you talk about the difference between risk and impulse.
Let's go there.
I don't know. And you speak into it too. What's the difference?
I think you can take if God is, I think, like I said, peace. I feel like there's moments that it's God, something's God, and it's quick. And there's moments that he's very slow. But the moments you know it's God, that it's quick, he is fully backing it up. And it's like one of those moments. Is that a Kairos moment? I don't know. It's one of those moments where everything's lined up and it just happens. But there's lots to prepare beforehand. And I would say that peace you feel. Because if you're I know there's so much more than feeling, but if you feel peace in making it, I feel like he's the Prince of Peace. And making impulse when it's not God does not feel good. It's anxious. Yeah. You can feel anxiety behind it, and I have to. You feel this have to. Anything that's pressured with a have to behind it, you are not powerful. I don't think that's God. If you feel peace about it, that's my thinking about it.
For sure, yeah. Well, so like I am highly impulsive by nature. And so anytime you see me patient with something, it's a fruit of the Spirit in my new nature. Because by nature, like before Christ, I want to do something, I do it. I don't wait. I don't like waiting in lines.
Yeah. Okay.
If I have a conversation to have, I have it today. Like Mariah's seen me. There's times I'm patient for years with something. And then something will happen and I'll say, no, right now we end it. We end it right now.
But do you think also not just impulse negatively? Do you think that's impulse like discerning and like done? We're done. No.
When it's done, it's done. When it's done, it's cut off.
Done. Yeah, I've seen that.
And it's so what I'm saying is I'm not impulsive anymore.
Yeah.
My nature is to be impulsive. Like there's many times where I want to send a message to somebody that may be, correcting or whatever. Like I want to fix something, and I'll pull my phone out, and Shanna will even, she'll say, stop and think.
Because that could be an impulsive
Stop and think, because it's impulsive. And I'll go, and I'll just have to breathe, right?
That's good.
And a lot of times I'll put my phone down.
Mm-hmm.
Say, okay, so that's why I started not taking heavy meetings on Mondays, because there would be things that would happen on a Sunday at church, and my impulse would be to fix the problem on a Monday when that's historically my least spiritually healthy.
Right after church.
That's my least spiritually healthy day of the week.
Wow.
Because that's like my Sunday. So Mondays for me are the day where I listen to 3 sermons. I listen to a podcast. I'm in the books. I'm like, I'm getting filled spiritually because I've just spent all weekend being ready to pour out, right?
Yeah.
And so when I'm tired or when I'm whatever, that's when I become more impulsive. So I discipline myself not to, if I can keep from it, make big decisions on Mondays. That's right. Good. That just is a practical piece. But I think immature risk and impulsive decision making, it is a sign of immaturity. And I think that when you look at like the lifestyle I live now, because I would say in many ways I'm taking bigger risks now than I've ever taken.
Yeah.
Because there's more cost. Like when you're just willing to kill yourself, I mean, that's a low level cost because you don't love enough yet. Like when I'm willing to take a risk that can hurt other people, with that, and you're taking the risk for the right reasons. You're not taking a risk just to be risky, to go like get the thrill. I'm taking a risk because I believe what we're doing is important. Yeah.
Usually I've noticed, I guess for myself, that when I'm impulsive, it's me centered.
Yep.
It has to do with me. I want to be heard. I want to be seen. I need to do this. I need to make it. I'm in control of this. And even like traveling somewhere quickly without thinking, and like, why don't we just take time? Nothing needs to be done that quickly.
Yeah.
And I used to be very like, I remember deciding to go to Spanish school or not. And I was in Mexico already. And I was like, I'm going to go straight to the place that I wanted to go. And I'm going to learn Spanish there. And I'm going to just impulsively like, just go. And people were like, people who knew the situation, who weren't outside of it, who were with me, said, go to Spanish school, learn, take a year, learn everything you can learn, and then go. And I was like, no, I just got to go. God's calling me. As a prophetic person, sometimes prophetic people, that's also, we'll talk just a sec.
I've made mistakes
prophetic
there
people,
too.
You see something and you think it's right now. And that's where impulsive, that can be dangerous because you're like, it's now. And it's not yet. It's not yet. Go here first, take time, and then go like,
by nature, a prophetic word is talking to you about something that hasn't happened yet. If it's foresight.
Yeah.
So there's insight, causes you to know something that you shouldn't know. And then there's foresight, which causes you to see something you can't see, like that's coming. So when it's foresight, by nature, it hasn't happened yet. So it comes, for me, oftentimes years early.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said there.
Yeah,
so like
I know.
So when the word comes, you want it to happen now.
Yeah.
I may get into this a little bit this Sunday, but like the word on this church, it took almost 6 years for me to even see flesh and blood on the word that was spoke. Like 6 years waiting. In the middle of that 6 years, losing church friends, losing relationships, experiencing disappointment, heartbreak, having to get a new job, being afraid, struggling internally with like personal deliverance stuff and trauma from my not the church stuff, even from my own past with my dad and other stuff. We had talked about that in the past. But like in a matter of 6 years, like God had been in that time when I wanted it to happen.
Right there.
You
just had the eyes for it. You were like,
oh, I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready. Oh, revival's coming now. Like this is it. It was not time. I wasn't who I needed to be. And I think by God's grace, like he says, this Holy Spirit didn't let me go so far that I couldn't recover, but then there was a time where he said, it's now.
What was it that you were like, you settled and you were like, okay, it's not yet. What was it that we were like, okay. Or was there that moment? I think was it like around COVID? Was there a time, but you were like,
it was before that.
Okay. Because you're like, I know this is not yet. I need to wait.
To be honest, there were people around me that believed in it more than I did at that point, and they pulled me into it.
That's good. We're mixing the risk taking and the prophetic because it's connected.
It is connected. So like, there have been bold decisions that have been made in the history of our church and my life and ministry and Shanna and our family, that we've made that people would say, oh, that was a bold act of faith, and that opened a door, or that gave them a season of breakthrough or whatever. And like COVID is part of that. But I'd say before then, both Shanna and I, we had come to a place where we didn't know if we wanted to be in this type of ministry anymore.
Wow.
Even though we had the word on our life, even though we knew that God had spoke over us.
You were pushing
there was a point where we didn't want anything to do with it. Shanna, even more, she was like, I've seen the insides and out of the church, and I don't know if I want to do it. I don't know if I have the energy to do it, and I felt the call, and I didn't know if I had the ability to do it anymore, and I think in that time, like, God had brought Jemmy Prudhomme in and Garrett Prudhomme, and Monica was with us at that time, and there were some real special people. Deborah had come in, Deborah and Joe Yonner, and Angel and Elsa were with us at that time. Nick was with us at that time. And there were these I was surrounded by these people that were really believing that God was going to do something. Yeah. And these people, their faith carried me in. Oh. Yeah. So like there was a time where I didn't know if I could do it anymore. I really didn't. I remember whenever I came
doing this with these few people.
Yeah, it was just a few people. Yeah, and I did not know if I could do it. It was hard. It was not. Sienna was with us at that time. We had a worship leader named Sienna, and there were these people that I really loved. I was thinking, I can't imagine like not being in this with you. And so it came like that. So it wasn't a bold act of faith to plant this church. Like when it was actually rooted in our weakness. Like there was a point where we were so weak that we didn't think we could raise ourselves up.
Interesting that risk can look like weakness. Like in your weakness, you're like, it's risky to even keep going. Should we even? This looks like it's something dying. It's a risk to even say no, onward. Like
and if you look at the timing of it, for me, when we said yes to doing this, had it happened 6 months later, I would have took a career job with a nonprofit.
Wow.
I was being promoted or like conversations were happening with a certain area of this nonprofit that I work for, the rescue mission. Yeah. And I believed that there was an opportunity that was available that I was really going to go after. And if I would have gotten that job, I would have never done this because I would have had golden handcuffs. There's no way, because I would have been in ministry.
And committed to that.
And I give someone my word and I have a high integrity. If I say I'm going to do it, I do it. I'll stay on the bus until the wheels fall off. I'll stay on the ship until it sinks. Like, and then I'll float to the shore. Like, so I would, so I don't think there was a great act of faith for me.
Interesting.
In starting the ministry, like in like getting the nonprofit going and, forming the bylaws and like, okay, now we're going to do this. The acts of faith began with, okay, so how are we going to pay rent?
Yeah.
That's where it began to like
maybe it was the faith of the other people, like the people that go on the roof lowering the man in.
That's what I felt like.
That's in that part. And then when you're in, you're like, okay, now. But did you just say? The faith for the
Foresight
rent. What did you?
For the rent.
Oh,
for the rent. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it came to how to pay the bills, that's where faith began to be resurrected.
Financial.
Yeah. So we're in there, and I remember there were many times I don't cry a lot. Like I'm not a crier, but in that season, I remember being in these board meetings and conversations with the church leaders at that time, and I remember being moved to tears because I was thinking they didn't realize how broken I was.
That's so good.
And I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not leaking out my dysfunction everywhere. Like a lot of my stuff was internal, and call it pride, call it whatever. I don't know. I just like, maybe I'm a little old school in that. Like I settle things with me and Jesus in prayer, but when it came time to now do this, like I had to deal with a lot of it, but a lot of tears. I think it was in those, once we had said yes, and this group of people had by their faith like lifted Shanna and I into this position and put us where God was wanting us to be. I think it was after that when we had said yes,
and then you're
we were committed.
Let's go.
No, it wasn't like, let's go. It was like, I'm committed.
Okay.
You know, and then it was.
It's the small thing.
It was not that way. And so now where you see, like, so it began with like, how do we pay rent? And then it was, crap, my truck's breaking down on me. I got to take people to coffee. I got to believe that God will send me a car.
Yeah.
And then a check comes in the mail and you get a car. Oh, I got to believe a youth pastor's coming. So a youth pastor's coming. I got to believe when COVID happened to me, Matt Broughton, a year, 6 months before, COVID happened, we started talking about media and live streaming.
We
and this whole
already
thing. And
streaming before COVID though?
No, we were not.
Bit.
No.
I feel like
I think we were waiting. We were just patient.
Dang.
And we resurrected it when COVID happened. It was like, all right, go time. Like, because we had just begun to get it together. But you believe that, like, it really, for me, like the risks that I took and the risks that we've taken, I don't want this to be all about me.
No,
but you're asking me the questions. So I'm trying to help. For me, it came rooted first in love. And then when you love somebody, you'll take the risks that you need to take to help them get to where God is calling them to be. So as people took a risk on me,
that's good.
Made a risky decision in following me, then I honored that. I said, if these people are going to trust me, then they deserve my whole heart. And so in that, like when I came on staff the first time, like I felt like, because everybody voted in the church that they wanted me to be a staff senior pastor.
Wow.
And there were like 40 people in the church. Everybody voted. It was unanimous. There were maybe like a handful that voted yes, but in their heads they were thinking, I don't know if you're a conventional pastor. Like, and we had off the record conversations about that or whatever, but like,
conventional.
Yeah, well, because they were thinking like maybe I need to hold a job out in the world and be in the church, and it just was becoming too much. But at that point, I made a decision to step in because of I felt like it was a reasonable thing to like give your whole life to it if you're called to it. So the risk that you take in giving your whole heart to something, it came from love, and it came from I'm connected to these people, and I think if they're going to trust me with their spiritual life, then I'm going to have to give my whole heart to them.
How, with like finances, has it gotten, of course I'm sure it doesn't get, I don't believe it gets easier, but once you see success in faith, taking risks in faith for little smaller things and like obeying God when he says step out, and then it's like it goes for more and more and more, and it doesn't get easier. There are more and more things, not just more money, but like, whoa, like right now, there's a lot riding on this. But can you explain, like share a little bit, like what I guess one of those first times that you were like, this is a risk financially and anything else, not even just financially.
When I came on staff, we had 3 months to see a significant change in our finances or we go broke.
Right.
So like,
and there's times it is,
can
you just share how
the story.
Giving is connected to your faith and like risk? There's a lot here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like, I mean, we've never not tithed as a family, and like our church has never stopped giving.
Yeah.
So even in our poverty, like right now, like while we're needing God to bring us $1.5 million.
So if anyone has an itch to give.
And within 4 years, we need God to bring us $3 million.
So
even in that, we are still blessing people, and we're doing benevolence, and we're still going to Mexico. We're building a church in Mexico right now, and we don't even have the funds to build our own church here locally. Like in this,
people are providing money for it.
Yeah. And checks are coming and things are happening. But, the level of faith, just to be real, like the level of faith that I walk in today would crush most people.
'Cause you've gone through it.
But it's been developed over time.
It's not
and
like it just appeared.
No, literally you would go to a therapist. Like most people would go to a therapist if they dealt with the level of unknown possibilities in front of them, like I'm dealing with today. Like, but the reality is, like, I don't have to know where I'm going if I know who I'm walking with.
Ooh.
Like sometimes we're so focused on getting there. I would say a better way is focusing on who you're walking with, because you don't have to know where you're going if you know him. That's your clip, by the way. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's your clip, right? Like, no, but like
that's the whole thing. It's all about that.
Like the Holy Spirit has like really proved himself faithful to me.
Yeah.
The Bible has been proven faithful to me. Jesus has been faithful to me.
Yeah.
The Father has been faithful to me. Like, these essential elements of my faith have given me the confidence to stand before God and make decisions. And now there was a time just, February? So November, I stood in front of 10 to 12 staff members and said, I'm telling you guys now that if these certain things don't happen, I won't be able to pay you guys.
Yeah. And we kind of all were like, ha.
No, that was real.
I know, but it was also, we had in that moment,
I was going to have to let everybody go if all this didn't happen. And you guys would have to make a choice. Do I want to stay in this or not? Because we would be out of money.
Yeah.
The choices we're making.
Very vulnerable, very open, transparent.
Yeah.
But I feel like in those a lot of those cases are when other people have faith for something though also. And we're like, we're together in this.
Yeah. And everybody, even if you didn't show it, like you might have been a little nervous or maybe not, but like everybody was saying, hey, we're in.
Yeah.
We're ready for this.
So out.
But I felt like so in that, like that was a risky decision. Like in the decisions we've made to go down this road of seeing a promise for our church in this 117 North Ventura Avenue warehouse.
Waiting for it.
Oh my gosh. And
like, are we going to just let go of it and lose heart? Or like, we have a space now. Who cares? No.
Yeah.
God has a vision for that space.
He has. And I think it's brought it's such a small thing when you look at like, what is it? It's brick and mortar.
Yeah.
But it's positionally placing a house of worship in a very significant area of the city.
What's in that city? What's so significant about that area?
That area, it's the number one overdose location in the entire county. And it's interesting to me that we were selected as the nonprofit to carry the overdose prevention contract with the county of Ventura. And so we have an outreach arm of our ministry called the Community Outreach Center. That's what they do, is now they educate and they help organizations or equip organizations with preventing overdose.
Before we even have that building.
We're doing this. This is prophetic in nature. Saying yes to that's risky.
Yeah.
And then seeing that in this house of worship, like this will be a place where people are coming alive from the dead. Like God has chosen this location right across from the psychics building, right at the front. They call this the gateway to the city almost.
Yes. So much comes in and out right here.
Historic Ventura Avenue that's been abandoned by a lot of people. Everyone's afraid of it.
The water, the river.
Like there's so much here. And we are not just simply a West Side of Ventura ministry either. People come from all areas of the city to come and be here. And it's really had to like, I've talked to several people where there was this stigma with the West Side where they were afraid to come. And just choosing the West Side for us is a risky decision as a church.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to be okay. Some people left our church because we chose the West Side.
Yeah. And we're choosing the people.
That
looks like the people, the messy, the broken, the confused, whatever.
And if you look at like in our church, Jackie Pierce, would we have known Jackie Pierce if we had never said yes to the West Side?
I don't.
Would we have known Pastor Raphael, who's leading our Spanish church with you? Would we have known Pastor Raphael? No. Would we have known Matt Stockamp? I mean, we may have known him, but he may not have jumped in with us.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. And there's countless others. Like you look at, there's just, I think of the Barnetts. The Barnetts, Melissa Barnett had a dream.
Yeah.
And in this dream, she was led by God into this warehouse.
That's right.
Remember when she first came, she said, God led me into this warehouse and said, this is going to be your family. I could mess some of that story up. There's something like that where she was led into this warehouse for the first time in this dream, awoke, and she had an invite to our church.
I think of Heather, who has had dreams and dreams and dreams.
Yes.
Of like all the things that are to come that we don't know when, and things just like so many dreams, so many visions. It's more than a building. It's so much. We have so many, like the multiple locations is connected, like aligning along. Anyway, the prophetic is wild and risk taking.
And when you're taking these risks, like 2 Corinthians 13, it says that every word should be confirmed by 2 to 3 witnesses. what happens when you have 20 to 30 witnesses on a vision? You know, overwhelming support. It should build your confidence to make a choice. You know, like, so for me, we're not just doing risky things. We're actually walking with the voice of God. Yeah. So like, I'd say we are making risky decisions and taking risk as a ministry. And I take a lot of risks as a leader, but it's not uncalculated or, you know, unconfirmed risk. I'm not just out like, oh, I'm going to put my finger on a map and go there. Like, that's not it. The Holy Spirit is leading our ministry. So that's what we trust when we take a risk.
And we bring people into it. Like you said, 'cause people are confirming because people are praying together, seriously praying. And that's a big, big part. I love what you said. I kind of want to go back to walking with him, because we see Abraham, very like Abraham. He was called out in faith to take a risk, and he left everything that he knew and he went. But the point wasn't just the land that he didn't know. It was, who was he walking with? He had conversations with him, like you said, walking with him, seeing the stars. Like, what do you think that was? Just him, his imagination? Like, no, that was God speaking to him. Then Moses, you see it with Joshua and Caleb. You see it with like all throughout the Bible, the judges, like the prophets.
Well, you see Joshua and Caleb going. I had that in my thoughts for this. Like they came back. What separated their vision of things and the men who came back and were afraid to go in? You know, they saw the same land.
We're with the God Almighty who can handle this. This is nothing. All of this is nothing compared to God that we have. They're so small.
You know, what's interesting is there were tribes that settled in the wilderness because they didn't have the stomach for the risk. I told our board, so like as we were making the decisions on the warehouse and whatever, and some of my advisors, you know, business advisors who were saying, you know, it's definitely a risky decision, you know, like how are you going to work out all the details and whatever. And I felt like for me, I needed to communicate, like, there's a lot of churches who don't, or leaders, let's just say leaders in general. There's a lot of leaders who can't break through these invisible barriers in their vision because they don't have the stomach for the risk. So like, you have to have a stomach to be able to walk with the unknowns and not sort it out. And a lot of people can't do that because they are too afraid.
Do you think, is it they're afraid of what? Like, is it fear of man or is it fear of
dying,
unknown,
fear of failure? There's fear of everything.
Fear,
Spirit of fear of failure, fear of not knowing, fear of it being out of control, fear of what if I lose a friend? What if the church splits? What if the fears? It's just
so
a spirit of fear.
That God says over and over to be anxious for nothing, fear not, be strong and courageous, like Old and New Testament. He's like, do not worry, because he's constantly asking us to take risks. Yeah. And he's saying, do not worry. And you're saying like the stomach for it, but like not listening to the lies and the fear.
I know lots of people who went into business and completely lost everything. But I also know lots of people that have went into business and did have the stomach for the risk and had the patience. Because it's both. Yeah. Patience.
Because it's not yet all the time.
Yeah. And then the wisdom to not just know what's happening, but what to do with what's happening. Because that's the other part. It's like, okay, so you have the stomach for the risk. Then you have the patience to maybe work 2 jobs for a season. Or, you know, like I think about young moms in our ministry that are, you know, financially, or young families, I say, not young moms, young families that are struggling financially, and do I go get a second job? Do we work more? Do we get a third job? Do both spouses work? And who raises our kids and the whole thing? And I get that tension, and you're trying to figure out like, okay, what choice do I make? Do we buy a home? Do we rent? Where do we stand on all this? You know, we had Shannon and I, when we were just raising families, we made a choice for her to stop working at a time. And it was a mutual choice. It wasn't me pushing it. It was actually her desire to stop working for a time and actually go paycheck to paycheck, or even under that.
But to be there.
But to be home so someone else didn't raise our kids. That was a risky decision. But now, as we have a high schooler and we have our kids are getting older, our kids are very stable and very well-rounded, and they're thriving, I think, because a lot of what Shanna did. But that was a choice.
Risky.
That was risky, yeah.
That's a risk.
And now in this season of our lives, we work together. She's here working with me in the office. She's helping oversee staff and helping oversee events, and we work together. But that risky decision in that time to go into financial negative, so that we could invest in the kids, and now being in a place where we own a home and things have come back to us 15 years later.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good. Speaking into families, like, what does it look like? I mean, there's simple things. I just want to like release it to people, but like, doesn't always have to be a crazy thing. It can be small, hidden, that no one sees, taking a risk or stepping on faith.
Well, that's what I was trying to say in the beginning. For me, it didn't start with like, okay, I'm stepping out in faith with a $3 million unknown banknote. Mm-hmm. For me, it was stepping out in faith with, okay, I'm going to trust that God wants me to be with these people. Okay, I'm going to trust that I'll show up here 46 times a year.
Consistency, yeah.
46 Sundays a year. Unless I'm sick or unless, I get injured or tragedy happens, I'm going to be here in the same room 46 times a year getting into the scriptures with these people.
That's good.
That's small. That's commitment to the small thing. That's risk, but like making that internal
faith
commitment.
is sometimes just the commitment.
Small. You say like, what does that look like for people? I'm going to stay in this marriage even though I don't know how it's going to go. I'm going to make lunches every day for the next 10 years, believing that my kids are going to see that I'm a source of stability in their life. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to try this new church I was invited to, and I'm going to make a commitment that if I'm there, I'm going to serve one Sunday a month. Our family, like married couple, we need friends. So we're going to take a risk and go like get to know some people we don't know.
Yeah, not wait for it.
Build a relationship
go look
there.
for it. Yeah, start it.
But what if they turn out to be people that we can't trust? Well, then keep trying.
Yeah.
There's
so much faithfulness and consistency
small risk
in faith. Sometimes it's not just this like one quick impulsive, not in a negative way, but just quick thing. Sometimes it's just like consistency. Faith can look like that. Like faith for me right now is like in the singleness that I have, and other people too. But like, I really just need to say this really quick because I feel like it's on my heart to release it. Speaking about singleness, I just right now feel like I need to. Parker kind of went there on Sunday, and I was just really hit. Parker, the youth pastor, spoke on Sunday at church, and he was talking about the waiting and the desert kind of, but not negative, like the desert, but God is feeding us. And specifically for the singles, I'm just going to, because you spoke to the married couples and families, and there is something for us in the consistency in faith and in consistency. And there was a time for me that I was frustrated. I was disappointed. I was just almost not hopeless. I hate saying that, but maybe I was just really discouraged. And we have a choice. Whatever your age is, have a choice if you're single and not. This applies to anybody in their life, to find God in that moment. Like, what is he growing in you? And for me, I realized in this time of my waiting in singleness, it could be anything. It could be trying to have a family. It can be, I don't know, literally anything, a job or waiting for something. You have a word, and who are you becoming in this moment? It's different. It's very annoying. Can be when people tell you who don't understand God's working in you, or they give you a word and they're just like, you're becoming such a great person, or he's still doing things and that's why you're single. Like, it's super frustrating. But when you know that like God is working in me, he is giving me this to steward now. He is building in me responsibility. He's building in me the consistency. He's building in me if I choose it.
That's so good.
If I choose it.
That's so good.
He's giving me, I'm learning discipline. I am learning to steward my finances. I'm learning my body and my sexuality and like in my purity and if you choose to be alert and not apathetic and asleep to it, we have this opportunity right now, just as anyone in any walk, to take it by like the horns, like take it and be like alive in it and awaken it. And I just feel like there's someone, like people maybe that just can't sit with themselves, and they're hopping from relationship to relationship in their singleness.
They can't sit with themselves.
They can't sit with it. And that applies to everything, not just the singleness.
Such a good word.
But maybe there's something in the quietness, in the waiting, like you said on Sunday when you were closing service, but like we lead a quiet life like this. Just be faithful in it and consistent, and like God's going to show you things. Like keep reading the word. And like I said, not just the singleness. It's in any little pocket you're believing the Lord for. Like press in, don't be discouraged, take the risks. Maybe it's fear that's keeping you from doing something. Step out. Like, yeah there's something.
And I want to before you close, because we're going to close right now, I want to say this for you too. Some don't realize, like, I see you as a woman and leader growing so much. Like, just, I know that people on the podcast out there in podcast land don't realize this, but I've watched you, like, you've become such a powerful woman. Like, you've always been a very fiery woman. You've always had passion. You've always like been well, at least from what I've known, I know that wasn't your history, but you've been speaking your mind and praying big things and believing big things. But who you're becoming in your ritual life and like your work life and your consistency life, I've seen you go from, someone who came in taking a risk on our ministry, taking a risk with me. Talking about speaking risk. You took a risk with me, and you made a choice to serve with me. And together we've seen God do so much. And now, like, you're literally full-time salaried community outreach center employee, leading pastors, pioneering a Spanish church. Like, you're a church planter, you're a leader of leaders. Like, all this stuff has come into your life. But your shame just wants to talk to you about your singleness. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so like when I see your life, I don't see any deficit.
Yeah.
I'm
at that place.
I see you as a powerful woman.
Yeah.
And it's cool because like you've actually went through that process to say, you know what? I'm going to show up. Yeah. That's what happened with me. I just showed up, and it's like, okay, I'm going to commit to a people.
Yeah. I feel like aiming at keep going at something and being like deciding I'm going to have a happy, content life because I'm choosing that. And I'm not waiting for anyone else to do that with me. Hopefully, because it's longing. Sometimes you want something, but prayer continuing, and it's
that longing is from
things.
God. It's there, like and God will fulfill that at when it happens. But you're not waiting for something to happen in order to like advance.
Be oaks to start.
Yeah, you're building a life right now. Yeah. Like, you're
That's
building a life while you're waiting to become a wife.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I feel like that's a word for people. Like, just be consistent in what he's given you. Steward it. Take risks in what. Yeah.
That daily. I show up on any given day. I know Moriah is going to be down here. I see her car.
But
you're here every day. You're just faithful. You just show up. Anytime I expect you to be somewhere, you're there. Anytime you tell me, you give me your word, you're going to do something, you do it.
Yeah.
I don't even have to question it. I know where you're going to be. There's something to be said about that, but let's close.
Yeah. So take the risks, jump out. Fear needs to go in this generation and the previous, like, fear needs to go. Fear of decision making, fear of finances, fear of the future. We put our hope in the Lord. I just want to say that, like, He is our hope. There's that verse in the Psalms when it's like the mountains may shake and it may fall into the sea and all these things happen, but be still and know that the Lord is like, be still and know. And I feel like that's the word for someone. Did you have anything else you want to release?
No, it was good. Just the risk taking. Yeah. We're not taking impulsive risks. We're falling in love with Jesus.
Yeah, walk with Him.
Building trust and building history of faithfulness with Him. And then when we take a risk, what seems risky as an outsider, for me, I don't really see it as, it doesn't feel the same to me because I've seen God faithfully come through on what he said every time. And when I obey him, it always works out.
Walk with me. He's just like, walk with me.
Yep.
So good. Ooh, we're so
Yeah, we're shifting the vision a little bit.
Yeah. So we're gonna start a new season soon. So we're gonna take a few weeks maybe to break.
Yep.
Not too long because we just like this so much. We can't.
We feel like we had a few ideas, just creative ideas, and we're going to go into just a few weeks to pray through them and flesh it out. But we really want to emphasize what's happening within a local church body, and then also what's happening within kingdom influence in the city.
Yeah.
And we want to focus the vision in a little bit more on just
separate them,
like not separate those two in the sense of like speak into those two
right.
very intentional.
Yes, separate, like be intentional talking about them,
intentional subjects, speaking into those. So like speaking into like the local church and building the house of God.
Make
and
it
then
clear. That's what we're talking about.
Making it clear.
Yeah.
We're speaking on this. And then also influencing in
Go
the kingdom
out.
in the city. So we're going to bring in some friends and guests and people that are of people of influence in the city.
In the city
we're
that
gonna
have
talk to them.
success and that are like doing exactly what we're talking about, taking risks and consistency in their areas.
That's good. So yeah,
So
lots to come.
stay
So
tuned.
stay tuned. We'll get back to you soon.
And that's it, guys. Happy Tuesday.